Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today I've got a really good bait hack for you that is something I learned a long time ago. And honestly, unfortunately, I don't get to use it as much as I'd like to for specific tournament regulation rules. But that doesn't mean that you can't use it. And I'm kind of surprised I'm letting this one out of the bag because it can be absolutely dynamite. So I want to give you a little bit of background on this, but before I do, I want to remind you guys that if you're looking to support the channel and looking to purchase tackle, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. I'll put that in the video description. Great way to support the channel and very, very much appreciated. Thank you to those of you who are using it. Also, if you want, you can bookmark it for future uses too, so you don't even have to think about it in the future. So I'm gonna give you a little background on this bait hack first. So years ago, I was fishing a tournament on a ledge lake. It was Kentucky Lake, and there was a really good ledge bite going on. I was catching fish just fine, but I was being outfished by another pro, probably 2 to 1 on the same spot. And I thought we were both throwing the same bait. And in fact, we were not, because he was doing this bait hack, and this is where I saw it from. Now, since that time, I've taken this and applied it to some other areas, and more specifically, one of my favorite ways to fish it is for late season, deep water smallmouth bass. Done it really well on the Great Lakes, done it on a lot of natural northern lakes, and it works so well. So what am I talking about, guys? Well, I'm talking about an umbrella rig first and foremost, but that's not the hack. So this is the Picasso Schoolie bait ball, one of my favorite ones out there. The hack is simply to replace 2 of the baits with weights on the bottom. Simple hack. But what this does is it turns your umbrella rig into much more of like a Carolina rig. So in this case, I personally prefer to throw like cylinder style drop shot weights because they tend to get hung up less. The idea here though is when you have fish that are glued to the bottom, you add your 2 weights and this will actually crawl across the bottom. It's almost like you've got like a Lindy rig, if you're familiar with walleye fishing, where you've got an actual wire arm that keeps your bait up off the bottom and keeps you from getting snagged. Well, in this case, these 2 weights will come across the bottom and actually act like legs that are walking around the bottom, keeps your hooks up off the bottom so you don't get snagged. Now, you could say, well, why not just throw additional hooks on the bottom that are going to rig you and pull you down? Well, the problem is if these were baits with hooks, they will tend to get hung up a lot. If you drag a umbrella rig on the bottom, you're going to get hung up. But in this case, you're not going to get hung up by replacing it with the weights. You will be amazed at how well this walks across the bottom. Now, I do want to give you a couple of tips with this. First, you want to make sure the weights that you throw are the same size. You don't want to have one off, because if you have one off, it'll tend to spin on the fall. I do really like the fact that with the Picasso Schoolie rig bait ball here, they've got a swivel in the front that moves. So if I hold that, I can actually spin the bait. Really limits the amount of line twist, which is a great thing. But if you're fishing one of these with 2 different size weights, you will get line spin on the fall. You don't want that. So you want the same size because you want you want this to walk across the bottom. So that's one thing. The second is it's better off if you go with very light jig heads. So in this case, I've got the Tush, the Core Tackle Tush 1/16 ounce 2-aught. So these are really light ones in here because you don't want the top to be weighing down the bottom. You can also fish them just with a unweighted hook if you want. I still like to have a little bit of weight in them. But the key here is you want to have not super heavy weights in your rigged baits because that will tend to present the whole bait down. The last thing is when you're fishing it, you don't want to necessarily stop it. The whole idea here is you're dragging this along the bottom and your baits are just swimming along the bottom, creating an easy meal. If you do kill it, Like, it's not necessarily meant to be, say, a football jig where you're dragging, stopping. Because when you do stop it, that is when you may tend to get snagged just because your baits will drop, and if there is something in that area, it will get caught. The key here is to fish this slow. If you're familiar with, say, fishing a swim bait on a wobble head, and if you're not, you probably should be, but that has become an extremely hot thing to do on your ledge lakes as well as your smallmouth fisheries. This is the same sort of approach, only you're bringing three baits down there. You'd be amazed at how many times you catch a giant or how many times you might end up doubling up. And there's probably some of you out there that are mad at me for talking about the umbrella rig because you consider it cheating, which is, I guess, a reason why it was potentially banned from tournaments that I fish, which is why I don't get to do this nearly as much as I'd like. But the reality here is, if it's legal in your state, I'm not going to question it. You go ahead and do it all you want. Some states probably will allow you to throw unlimited number of hooks. But from that standpoint, guys, it is a great, great fish catching tool. So give this little hack a try. I think you'll be amazed at how well it works and how good you can keep your bottom contact and keep your baits in the strike zone without getting hung up. Something that has been really, really good for me over the years. So give that one a try. A simple hack that makes a world of difference. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. New one coming out tomorrow.